Hello, good evening, guys. My name's Josh from Juice Labs. Welcome to Juicy Conversations. We've been doing a series of conversations to check in to see how creatives are adjusting to the new norm and what they're doing to thrive. So, my next guest is the lovely Hevi Serdar. She's a self-development specialist, and some of you might have known her through our past events, Expressions of Value, and recently 2020 Hustle. So tonight we'll be talking about finding balance during these times, tips on productivity and mental health. So guys, please welcome Hevi.
Hey guys,
All
how's
right.
it going? Am I on?
Yeah, we are
Hey
on.
guys, how's it going? So happy to be here.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know you, if you can share a little bit about yourself, yeah, we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Hevi. I basically currently run a coaching platform called Bloom Shell, which I founded myself about a year and a half ago. I'm a self-development expert as well as a business coach. I also do public speaking, so partnering with different companies, as well as running my own workshops, which is something that was actually a 2020 goal, and hopefully we can still make that happen very soon in Vancouver. But definitely have attended and partnered up with people with even Juice Labs and stuff like that. So it's been fun. Currently working on a couple of other projects because I think that's something that a lot of us entrepreneurs get super excited about, is sometimes just jumping around from one idea to another and finding a way to make it happen. So yeah. Currently working on something else right now, product related, but that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Awesome. So yeah, like how have you been overall, just with the whole situation? I'm always checking in on our guests. Like, how have you adjusted? Has it been a lot of change? Has it been for the good, for the bad? Yeah, how you been overall?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the timing is actually quite funny because as soon as the whole pandemic started out, sort of like mid or beginning of March, I was actually already sort of going through or going to be going through a little bit of a transition, which I was talking to you about offline. And so around, I'd say about a week before the social distancing sort of started out and a lot of businesses had to shut down, I was working for a gym which also had to shut down, and I actually had resigned about 2 weeks prior to that. And
Wow.
so I was already preparing for a little bit of change and sort of beginning a new chapter. So that was something that was a little less shocking for me, I would say, more so than a lot of other people. And then at the same time, I also moved out of my place, and now currently living in a new one. So settled in the last 10 days or so. So lots of changes have happened. And so it's kept me busy, but at the same time, I would say, I've been handling it pretty good. And really it's just because of we all have our moments obviously, but it's really just about the perspective. And I've kind of learned to manage my time a little bit better than I did obviously at the beginning of all of this, because it is very easy to go into a little bit of a downward spiral when it comes to pretty much being lazy, not doing a whole lot at home.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people do relate, but I was quite lucky that I caught myself a little bit earlier on so that I could, still kind of work towards my goals and all that. So,
Okay. Awesome. That's good. It's really good. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about change, like adjusting to change, and what are some common pitfalls that people go through when maybe they go through a disruptive change like this pandemic, and what are some key things to focus on, like you said, like time management? What other things are important just to keep you on track?
Yeah, for sure. Well, one thing is, when I did a talk with Juice Labs as well earlier on in January, we talked a lot about goal setting, and everybody had this plan for 2020. Everybody was so excited about setting all
That's
these
so
goals. And
funny.
we ran our workshop, and we did some exercises on sort of how to break down those goals and to make them happy, or to make them happen and stay consistent. But obviously, unfortunately, nobody was expecting this to happen. And so people are in shock, right? I think people are still kind of in shock, although they're sort of starting to let the new reality sink in for now. But I would say, like, it obviously, change is never an easy thing, right? For everybody, this was something that they least expected to happen, especially in 2020. And I think, one of the most important things is to remember that just because, your environment is changing, and yes, it is impacting a lot of people in many ways, right? Whether it's emotionally, or financially, or just changing your life is completely flipped upside down, right? Nobody really knows what to do, and people are also obviously concerned about their health. And so these sort of, this leaves people kind of confused. What am I supposed to do right now, right? Am I supposed to sort of just be following up every single day with updates and what's going on and what's going to happen to the world, and will Starbucks ever open again?
Yeah.
That's something I think about every day, right? And so, yeah, so there's a lot going on in people's minds, and obviously this change isn't easy, but it's still important to remember that those goals that you had set for yourself, or most of the people that had actually set some goals, you still have an opportunity to work on them. And I think that as human beings, we have been equipped with the ability to adapt, right? And so if it's not a pandemic, it's so many other things that we have dealt with, right? And so obviously this is a big issue, but at the same time, I don't think that it's really I don't think that it should be an excuse for people to kind of stop doing the things that they love, in the sense of, yes, you're going to have to obviously make adjustments, but you still have the opportunity to, if anything, actually, you have a little bit more opportunity, because you've now got something that most people wish they had, right? Which is more time, right? How many people wish for more time to
Totally.
spend with their family members, or to be able to finally finish that book, or to do something that they love, right? And so I'm not saying that obviously this whole pandemic is a blessing, but at the same time, there's only so much that we can control, and I think that people have to recognize that you do your part the best you can, but at the same time, make the best of the time, right? And so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely things that I've focused on quite a bit, that have really helped me sort of deal with this change. And I think the one thing is remembering that I still have dreams, right? I still have goals, and this is going to hopefully very soon be over at some point. And at that point, you have an advantage now, right? You have an advantage to become a better version of yourself in so many ways, right? So if there's something that you wanted to learn for so long, but you just haven't had the time to do it, now's the time to do it. You literally have no choice but to be at home, right? So you've got access to books, you've got access to the computer, you've got access to YouTube and Facebook, and so many different portals that can give you what you need and the resources, right? So I think people need to remember that it's not the end, and at the same time, you have to be willing to learn to adapt, and make the best of it, and in fact probably come out better, in many ways too. So
It's interesting. I do you feel like, I'm curious, like how you're observing other people in your social circle like react to this. Are they taking this time to obviously like, oh well, since we're all like stuck at home, we might as well just take this time to reassess, plan, or are they like panicking a bit because maybe some people are going through like restlessness or anxiety because of like the uncertainty? Yeah, have you noticed a trend in your social circle of people like acting one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it obviously depends on the person, and I think I've been pretty fortunate to surround myself with a lot of people who still value, who are still quite ambitious, and who really just have a really good understanding of themselves, and they are aware that they can only do so much when it comes to this whole pandemic, and
Yeah.
so they realize like, hey, well, what am I still passionate about? And one of the things, and the people that I am quite close with, are obviously very big gym goers, right? And so they're all
Yeah.
about health and fitness, and I am too. And so it's nice because I haven't really like with them. I've seen them sort of still stay, motivated to the best that they can. Obviously, there's no gyms, but you
Mm.
know, doing what they can, right? And so that hasn't really stopped. This whole situation hasn't really stopped them from still going out and doing some sort of activity because it's who they are, right?
Mhm.
So that's gotten me, actually that made me quite happy because I was a little bit worried too myself, like my gosh, like I don't have any gym to go to, and yourself, and for those that don't know,
You're a
I
lifter.
I, I'm a lifter. I wouldn't call myself a
Yeah.
really. I mean, I started sort of getting into it
Mhm.
pretty recently, but I do love fitness. I love health and fitness. It's been my life, and very recently it's been even a bigger part of my life. And so that was the first thing for me, was not the restaurants, not well, Starbucks was important, but not not getting to sit in a cafe or anything, but it was really like, my gosh, the gym. Like, what am I going to do? This is who I am. And so the people around me have actually kind of helped me and kept me accountable as well.
Mm.
And even to the extent of providing me with equipment and stuff
Oh,
to be able
cool.
to kind of work out outdoors and stuff. So I've been pretty fortunate with that. But you know then you have people like my family, who are a little bit more traditional, and obviously you've got them turning CNN on all day every day, or global news or whatever,
Mhm.
wanting updates. And most of the time we know that it's quite repetitive news all day throughout the day.
Yeah.
But they just want to keeping up with it. But I have found that that's created a lot of panic um, at
Yeah.
home, and so I kind of try to avoid that, because panic is contagious, and so we have to be obviously quite aware of the way we react, because that doesn't help anybody, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I definitely want to touch on. Like, obviously, the only or the main way to connect is just through online Zoom calls and whatnot.
Mhm.
Um, have you kind of come up with a strategy on like balancing like online and offline um, stimulation? Because I feel like a lot of us like we're just constantly doing screen time now, right? So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a part of my business and a part of kind of the personal brand that I want to build requires me to be quite active on social media. And I had been, and up until about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And a lot of people who do follow me on Instagram know that I kind of just sort of went a little MIA. And obviously, with me, there's a purpose behind that. It wasn't just like, oh, I don't feel like being on social media, especially when I'm trying to build my brand. But
Hmm.
I think what started happening, and I'm taking it to the extreme case, and I don't really expect everybody else to kind of follow along. But immediately with all of this happening, you constantly want to get so connected with everybody else, because
Yeah.
now you're forced to be at home, and your only sort of way of connecting with other humans is either online or FaceTiming, or
Hmm.
whatever. And I noticed that I sort of started getting into that trend. Being a super big extrovert that I am, I
Hmm.
love people,
Yeah.
and so that was a very big struggle for me. But what happened with that was that I noticed my screen time going up to like 4 or 5 hours a day,
Mm.
and about 3.5 hours of that was literally on Instagram and, Facebook and all these things. And so I sort of made a little commitment to myself, and I said, you know what? at this point, the return on time, and I'm very big on this, I call it ROT, return on time for scrolling doesn't actually get me anywhere at
Mm.
this time. And it's not really helping me connect with people in any way. In fact, if anything, it's actually mentally draining.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because what are people posting about right now? Everybody is posting about the pandemic and, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, this government is at fault and that government is at fault. And, everybody's just constantly, it's good. They're giving, they've got their opinions, but at the same time, it definitely can have a negative impact on each of us. Right. And so I sort of made the decision to kind of delete my app completely, my Instagram.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So
huge.
and so this for me was sort of not so much like, oh, I'm just going to cut everything out, but it was really like, let's see if I can handle it for, let's say a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, see if that's going to actually help lower my screen time and actually have more discipline when it comes to going on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons I also did delete the app was also because I really wanted to focus on reading. And I noticed that every time I picked up a book, I would, read a few pages and then I'd go, oh, I wonder what that person's doing on social media, right?
Mm.
Thinking of somebody and then you're like, oh, I wonder what they're up to. And then just literally going back on my phone. And so I wanted to be able to read some books that I've been wanting to read for a while. And so I figured, you know what, those 3.5 hours that I dedicate to social media and not actually like, effective sort of like, let's say social media marketing, which would be related to like my business
Mm-hmm.
and benefit me in that way. It was purely pleasure. It was purely just scrolling and kind of seeing what everybody's doing. And so I was able to kind of utilize that time each day and actually be able to read one book a week, which I managed to
Wow.
finish. Yeah. And so, that I've got a few books, which I'll share with you guys
Yeah, I
after.
love that.
I thought might be pretty cool because I've spent the last 4 weeks sort of educating myself. And yeah, but yeah, I think you don't have to go to that extremes. Once I realized that I have a little bit more control because I don't necessarily need or I'd say have the addiction to social media, especially to Instagram,
Mm.
then it's a lot easier for me to kind of manage how much time I do use go on it each day. And so slowly I would download the app, spend about 20 minutes a day, just catching up with people and kind of seeing what everyone's up to and all of that. And then I would go back and delete it for another 3 days.
Yeah.
So I'm a little extreme, so I don't expect that, but I am going to be honest and say that that's kind of how I was able to kind of manage it,
Mm.
because what I did is I eliminated the addiction, right?
Yeah.
And now it becomes more of a you've changed a behavioral pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my weakness, where some people do have are able to manage their time. And so what I really recommend is constantly look at your screen time, and see, like, is it benefiting you to sit there all day and look at what other people are up to all day,
Mm-hmm.
and are you getting the necessary information you need from other sources where you don't have to constantly be looking at what everybody is posting about this pandemic, right? Because that creates a lot more stress. I see it equivalent to the news, if anything,
Yeah.
right? So or to having the news on all day, right? So
CNN. All right.
but yeah, and I think ultimately, I'll leave it at this with this question. You know, when you spend your all day just sort of looking through your apps and kind of trying to get entertained and seeing what everybody else is doing, ultimately that does lead to a lack of productivity, a lack of progression in whatever it is that you want to do, whatever goals you have, right, or you had at the beginning of the year that you could be working on.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that lack will ultimately result in you being less happy and in fact more stressed out. And I think that's the last thing we need right now,
Mm.
especially during these times, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm curious, like when you were coaching your clients in the past, did
Hmm.
like social media distractions or things like that come up? Or like like things like that related to mental health. I'm curious if you have any tips on that.
So 100%.
Yeah.
So my clientele didn't necessarily have social media distraction because they were a little bit of an older crowd, a
Okay.
little bit of older age. So most of them weren't actually even active on Instagram or on YouTube or anything. Facebook, yes,
Mm.
but definitely Instagram was like a newer one for them. And so I would say that it wasn't so much the distraction of being on it, but comparing themselves to
Okay.
the people on social media. Yes, absolutely, because right away, so many factors came in. I'm not going to be as good as that girl who's sort of in the same niche, right?
Mm.
So that was something where I had to kind of educate them on and just say, hey, listen, you make it your own, and then the people that want to listen to what you have to say or what you offer will
Mm.
eventually come your way. And you don't need 100,000 followers to become successful at what you do. You need a good quality of, let's say 1,000 people, or 2,000 people, or maybe a little bit more eventually, right? Which takes time.
Mm.
Who actually care about what you have to say and who actually believe in you and your product. And you have those people. Those people are going to refer other people, and so you don't need to really compare yourself to other people, because that also, yes, it affects people's
Mm-hmm.
well-being, right? And I do notice that it's even happening right now, because what do people have more than anything right now? Time.
Yeah.
Time,
Yeah.
right? So you spend hours sitting there
Even
looking at all
more.
these accounts. And here's the funny part. I've had some of my girlfriends come to me and say, I don't understand how this girl has managed to still look so damn good during this quarantine. She's got her makeup's perfect and she's still looking perfect. Meanwhile, I'm at home, been in my pajamas all day. Right? Haven't This is probably the first time I've worn makeup in a while, but it you compare yourself, like,
Right.
how she managed to still look so great, and look at me, and you're already in your worst, like, let's say, like, your worst sort of outfit or your worst state, right? And
Mm.
so comparing yourself to all these people, it's not necessary. It's not what you need,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think people need to be aware of that. So
That's awesome.
mhm.
Yeah. Like I notice about you, like you definitely know the value of social media, and even for a business perspective, like getting as many followers and creating that presence and interacting, like you can't help but like get affected by what people have to say, but you do it in a way, like you're able to, like you say, like separate yourselves from that like attention, that need for the validation. I'm curious where that came from, or like how you developed that, because I know, yeah, that's a real thing, right? And
Mhm.
like you said, you
Yeah.
deleted the app, you were able just to like pull the plug cold turkey, and not a lot of people can do that. And yeah, I really see that you have this sense of like rootedness, and
Mhm.
and like you've done the deep work. So I'm curious where that came about.
Stop, you're being too nice.
No, really.
Shooting my horn. You're being too nice. Um, no, I do definitely, kind of see what you mean. And when it comes to obviously validation, the one thing that I have realized over the last few years of being extremely, and I've gone through phases, right? Being
Mm.
very, very active on social media, and then not being active at all, or just very minimal, right? But one thing that I have realized is that nothing is as important as, number one, your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is as important as your reality, and your reality is not the app, right? That is basically, that is a tool, right? It's not life itself. And I think often people get so caught up in having to be this person, and they have to constantly be present, right, on
Mm.
social media. And I think that sort of, it it's ultimately, they're creating a new reality for themselves, and in that reality, they have an audience of people who know them and watch them and constantly want to see what they're up to, and whether or not they do really care what that person's doing with their lives, they want to constantly see them plugged in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people who can actually, I know people who've been, actively posting for, years, every day, like years, like never really took even a month off or a week off, right? No social media detox, just literally kept going. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those people have managed to grow an amazing platform. But I think that people have to also understand that not everybody can always put their face in the limelight. And it's not so much that, that they don't feel like let's say like connecting with people or anything like that, and that's fine too. But really it's that, we live to sort of better ourselves, and we live to be happy in our real lives, not necessarily just on social media. And here's the thing, what's going to happen if tomorrow, well, actually it's already happening, what's the new app that came out, the recent one, TikTok, right? That's already taking over. And so what's happening is more and more people are spending less time on Instagram and going onto TikTok. More and more people back in the day were spending time on Facebook, and then they transitioned to Instagram. Now I probably have like 3 friends counting who are active on Facebook. They don't even use Facebook anymore. Like, what? No, like my parents use that. You know what I mean? And so here's the thing, it's a phase, right? Whether it goes on for years or whether, it goes on for longer than that, all of these apps are just a phase. And, it's okay to use them. It's okay to obviously even use them when it comes to business and, promoting yourself or your product, or, becoming an influencer, whatever it is that you want to do. That there's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to understand that, there will come a time where, Instagram isn't going to be everybody's world, because TikTok's come around, right? I'm just kidding. But again, but really, people, they're users at the end of the day, right? Users are going to switch to a platform that's more popular and that's getting, a lot more clout, right? So that's where they're going to transition to. So, if you put your entire life into that and constantly seek this validation from people, I don't think that you're ultimately ever going to be happy. I think that that's probably what we're all sort of seeking to aim when it comes to even validation, right? So I realized this. And so for me, when I know I need self-reflection time, or when I know that something is taking over my life, or, taking over my mental well-being, or whatever it is, I'm not afraid to kind of step back and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to utilize this time to better myself in real life, because, Instagram won't always be around, but I will. Right, for a while, hopefully. But and I want to make sure that I'm good, right? So
that's awesome. Like, for those who are actually taking advantage of this quiet time to, I guess, take stock and slow down and just kind of reflect on like, oh, what have I been doing, reassessing on how much time I've been spending on certain things that are good or wasting, do you have any tips on how to go about that, how to kind of, what am I trying to say, ground yourself, just bring yourself back to a place where I guess you're good enough, and then from there come out of a place where you're healthy, as opposed to chasing after things to compensate over a lack or something, right? Does that make sense? It's kind of a broad,
for sure,
broad
100%
stroke question.
No, I absolutely get that. And so one of the things that I've started doing that has really helped me in so many ways, when it comes to self-reflection, and obviously, like I said, we've got this time, right? So you can either spend 5 hours on a social media app, or you can, break that down, spend, let's say 30 minutes or 45 minutes on the app, and then, just either block yourself from it and do other things. But, what I have noticed is this time has been so important for me in terms of self-reflection, and especially because I went a little extreme and just sort of deleted everything. Not everyone has to do that again, but again, that's just sort of, I'm a little bit of an extremist sometimes, and so I'm working on that too. But I find it helps me, right? It works for me because I was able to kind of achieve a lot of things I wanted to in the last 4 weeks, aka be able to read the books I've wanted to read for so long, right? So One thing I've done though is I've got this sitting at my table. It's my little notebook. And what I do is I actually journal for about 20 to 30 minutes every single night before I go to bed. So I have actually done this. Now this is pretty much full now because I didn't think I was going to write as much as I actually ended up writing. But I've been journaling for 30 minutes for the last 4 weeks each night. I've pretty much got enough content in there to write a book or to publish a book. Just kidding. But yeah, I mean, it's been helpful for me because I find that a lot of people aren't even aware of what's going on in their minds, especially their subconscious, right? We don't realize that thoughts are what create emotions. And so when we're feeling sad or feeling down and have that need for validation, where we go and obviously seek it instantly. And where do you go to do that? It's either going to be through a social media app or, whatever, right? And so people don't realize that it's those thoughts that are creating that need for validation, and they're not aware of it, right? And so self-awareness becomes so crucial. And one of the ways to do that is actually just to start writing. Put a pen to a paper and just start jotting down, I literally had moments where I was like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what to say about myself. Like, what, okay. So I literally wrote, like, today is April 15th and I'm supposed to write right now. And I don't really know what to say. And,
That's awesome.
but as soon as I started sort of just getting into that habit and
Right.
said, let's just get it all out there, you can't even imagine how much I realized about myself and how much I was feeling, all these different emotions that were having an impact on my day to day and the way that I felt about myself. Right. And that's how I portrayed it on, or how it reflected in my daily life, right? Of me needing that validation or needing all of that. And that there was a point where I really, really needed that validation. I couldn't understand why, but it was like, oh, it's everybody's doing it, right? Let's all just like post pictures of ourselves constantly and, talk about our day. And, there's nothing wrong with that again, but, doing with the right intention, knowing that you're okay inside before you put yourself out there, right? And so I wrote so much, and I can't believe how much came out, and things just started sort of coming out that I felt about myself, and just even like about the people in my life, and so many different things, and my goals, and sometimes that fear of like not, a lot of the times, why do I do certain things? Because I have that fear of not making it, right? And I've got all these big goals and these big dreams, and sometimes I get scared, like, hey, like, I'm not gonna make, what if I don't make it? And so writing all this stuff down helped me so much, and it actually just helped me transfer a lot of what was in here out and onto a piece of paper. And that is the one thing that I recommend for absolutely everybody watching this right now. Like, that's this awesome. Is like if I had to force you to do one thing,
I'm writing that down.
Anyone to do one thing, it is to start writing. Like just start writing.
That's like so interesting.
Every day, just write down how you feel. Write down your goals, write down like whatever's on your mind. It doesn't even matter. You don't need to have it, it doesn't need to be like perfect grammatically in any way, whatever, that's between you and that book. And so that helped me. And I think that this is a really good time to reflect on yourself and who you want to be and how you feel about yourself and all of that. And I think that ultimately when you do that, you start building enough confidence in yourself, because you have the ability to openly confront a lot of your thoughts and your emotions, and better know yourself and know what it is that you need. And what you need is not necessarily you're not gonna find it on Instagram, like you're not gonna find it there.
Yeah.
You're gonna find it in your creative side. You're going to find it in the people you care about. You're going to find it in bettering yourself, in educating yourself, and breaking a bad habit or whatever it is. Those are the things that make you feel better, not necessarily the instant gratification that we all seek from these apps, right? So yes, everyone get journaling.
Yeah, I feel like it hits a different spot in your brain, right? Like if you're on social media, it's like very stimulating. It's like fresh content where writing these thoughts down, it's like very cathartic. It's like a reflective mindset, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's nothing really new, but it's more of like review.
Yeah.
And I feel like, yeah, like if we were going on like a regular routine, we would be so busy that we wouldn't have time for that night. For me, I'm realizing, yeah, just taking the time to reflect is like so important. Like I think that's a huge thing for, yeah, like mental health. It's just like your brain dump at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about it, you know, what are people used to doing, right? They're used to this busy routine. You know, you wake up at 7 a.m. and, you know, for those of you who are ambitious, you go to the gym at 7 a.m. and then you go and then you start work, right? You know, at 9, and you're not home till 6 or 7, and then you eat dinner, and, you know, you sit in front of the TV or you scroll through Instagram or Facebook or whatever because you haven't had the time. And so you're doing this 5-6 days a week, and then you're running errands 1 or 2 days a week, or spending time or, you know, going out drinking or whatever. Now you think about this routine that people have been doing for years and years and years, and some people haven't even taken a week off, right? I know so many people who haven't even taken a vacation, you know, in a couple of years or so. And so what you're doing ultimately is you're distracting yourself, right? You're distracting yourself from the much needed time alone, or just, you know, sitting at home or going for a walk or whatever it is, slowing down so that you can actually you know, face your thoughts and face how you feel about yourself. And okay, well, where am I right now at this point in my life? Instead of just being on autopilot, you've actually now got an opportunity to, you know, to again to reinvent yourself, right? And so I think that, you know, the pandemic exists. We can't do anything about. We can do the best, obviously, of our ability to, you know, social distance, take care of ourselves, wear masks, you know, whatever we can control, we can control. But at the end of the day, right now, it does exist, and that's the reality. And so you have the choice, right, to use this pandemic as an excuse to not do anything because, oh, well, why should I? Everybody is stressed out, and, you know, everyone's just kind of waiting for things to open up again and waiting for life to kind of go back on autopilot, right? So that we can continue distracting ourselves. And in the meantime, we're going to find other ways to distract ourselves by doing nothing and not being productive in any way because we're allowed to, right? Because the world says it's okay to sit back and do nothing. Well, I don't get to go out, so it means I'm not going to achieve my dreams. I'm pretty sure that the most successful people in the world happen to sit at home and, you know, educate themselves and get things done, you know, all day if they had to, lock themselves up, right? In order to actually make something big happen and then be able to then introduce it to the world, right? So you don't have an excuse. You know, you don't have an excuse. And I'm being a little bit sort of very direct, and, you know, some people may like it or may not like it, but the reality is, like, this pandemic is not an excuse to sit on your butt and do nothing. Like, it's not. You still have, for people who are healthy and fortunate enough to be healthy, you have the ability to move your body. You have, for some of you who have a backyard, some of you have some space in your room or whatever it is, keep your body active because your body needs that, you know. You don't have to eat junk food just because you're at home all day. It's not an excuse to eat ice cream in front of, you know, the TV all day. Now, obviously, we all like our treats and it's okay, but, you know, I'm talking about really just like making that your new lifestyle, right? You don't have an excuse to do any of those things. If you do those things right now, it is not because of the pandemic, it is because of you and your choices, you know? And so a lot of people need to face that truth, right? Because, like I said, it's so easy to find any reason to not do what you want to do, and ultimately it's because you're either afraid, right, to get closer to achieving something, or, and then that's a thing, right, fear of success, or you're flat out lazy and that you ultimately don't want to put in the hard work, and so you'll use anything as an excuse to not get to where you want to be, you know. So I think people need to take this time as a blessing, and, you know, for those who haven't even had a chance to spend time with people they care about, that on its own is something productive, because people are, your loved ones are going to be more important than anything, right?
Hmm.
So people you do care about and you have close relationships with, take the time to spend that time with them, quality time. And I don't mean sitting on your phone, and being on, social media or chatting with other people while you sit next to somebody else. I mean, be actively present with them. Like, have a meal where you actually sit at the table together and have a conversation,
Hmm.
and this could be people you've spent years living with. But at the end of the day, somebody's always going to have something new to talk about when you actually change sort of like that habit, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, so I think it's a blessing, and I think people need to seriously just see the opportunity,
Yeah. Hmm.
as opposed to, using it as an excuse or even just panicking, right? Because that does nothing for this world.
Hmm.
We know that more people we know that more people actually, suffer due to, anxiety and depression and mental illnesses, and more than anything else, right? And so, that why do you want to contribute to that? People already have enough stress going on in their lives. And this also goes to people who are posting on social media. If you don't have anything positive to say, or something that's going to seriously have, like create positive awareness, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, there's information that people need to know. But if you're going to sit there and you're just going to blame governments, and you're going to blame, well, that institution didn't do something right, and this leader didn't do something right, and let's compare leaders. Oh, look, that leader's doing a better job in their country
Yeah,
than
it's
ours.
interesting.
You know what I mean? And so, you can sit there and you can and blame everybody all day, but at the end of the day, all you are doing, and take this responsibility for
Mm.
those posting these things, all you are doing is creating more anxiety and more stress towards for people who are already sitting at home, not knowing what their future holds, and in fact are just going to end up feeling worse. And so, that's something that, people have to be aware of. Like, don't spread that kind of message, right?
Hmm.
So yeah.
Wow, that was so good. I was like, there's so many points to cover. I want to wrap that up because that was so good. Like, so what I'm hearing is people who are in a space where they're complaining, comparing, criticizing. It's essentially what that is. It's just like making an excuse of not taking responsibility of the things you're complaining about, and instead, yeah, take charge and don't fall into that victim mentality, but instead start doing things that's productive instead of just propagating the situation. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
there's so many topics I want to hit, like productivity, hustle culture, burnout. Just to remind everyone, if you guys have any questions, please just put it in the chat, and we'll cover it at the end. And Jen, welcome. Jen is watching. She has a question.
Oh,
I'll
hi,
I'll,
Jen.
I'll ask your question at the end.
I miss you.
um, yeah, no, you're talking about people being lazy and things like that, but I'm curious, like, you know what if this is the first time for some people who they're constantly in like the hamster wheel, just grinding it out, and this is like the first time they've had like a forced rest,
Mhm,
and I don't know, or maybe there are people who are just burnt out and
mhm,
they're using this time to just like veg out. Like, I mean, a good metaphor is just like someone who's just been sprinting or going on a marathon for a long time, and after the race, you just want to like fall flat on the ground, just rest for a little bit, right? And I think that's
mhm,
almost necessary.
mhm,
Um, yeah, I'm curious, because it's yeah, I'm curious what you have to say to that, because sometimes you need that rest after,
mhm,
but it's easy to fall into being late, like, can lead into laziness if you don't have that
mhm.
that like structure or consistency. So I'm curious, yeah, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, look, there's a big difference between obviously intentionally choosing to not utilize your time effectively, and intentionally choosing to rest because you are aware and you listen to your body and you listen to your mind, and your mind knows that this is what I need right now. And I do agree, there are a lot of people who have been busting their butts, and there are a lot of people who have to take care of families and, financially, and so they've never had a break, right? Because you've got to put food on the table, or you've got to take care of the kids, or everybody is obviously different. But what my point is that it starts with self-awareness, right?
Mhm.
You need to own up to who you are at that moment in life. Like, you need to sort of face yourself, and ask yourself, hey, like, am I not choosing to work on something that I should be working on, or I have the time to be working on, like educating myself in some way or bettering myself in another? Am I choosing to do that because simply I just don't feel like it?
Mhm.
Or is it really just that, what, like, I've really had it rough for the last few years, and I haven't had a break, and this is my break, and I can feel my body is fatiguing, or I can feel like my brain
Mhm.
is just like done, and I think it's a great time. This is, in fact, like I said, like what I said as well earlier, was like spending time with your loved ones, like
Mhm.
doing the things that you enjoy. Those things are productive, right? They're not productive, because a lot of people don't even have time to spend with their kids, or with with their spouse, or whatever. If you need to, let's say, just even get on FaceTime with your friends, right? Because you obviously can't see them too often. But it's all about, yourself. I
Mhm.
don't need to sit here and tell you what to do with your time, or how to utilize the time that you have given to you right now. I don't know everybody's circumstance, but you do. You are aware. And so ask yourself that question. For those listening right now, like, ask yourself, what am I doing with my time right now, and why?
Mhm.
Am I resting because I really genuinely need this? Okay, done. But you know what? That's at some point got to end too, right? Because very quickly you can fall into the habit of, well, I'm not going to do anything because a few months ago, I was exhausted. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, no, right? You've got to, if you're the kind of person who has that self discipline and can really pick themselves up, like, once you feel like you've had enough rest, then, do something. But when I say productive, I don't mean, there's a difference between being productive and being busy, right?
Mm.
A lot of people just want to keep themselves busy
Yeah.
because, like I said, it's a form of distraction, and it makes you feel better about yourself because, I did 100 things on my to-do list today. That means I deserve a
Right.
reward or a golden star. There's a difference between that and, hey, you know what? There are 2 or 3 things that I'm going to commit to each
Mhm.
day, and all of them are going to take probably less than a couple hours a day. But I'm going to make sure that I'm doing a little bit every single day to educate myself. For example, what one of the productivity tips, and I know this is kind of going a little off topic, but one of the productivity tips that I wanted to share with people is, don't set yourself up to do 10 or 20 things each day, and say, okay, well, I've got to make sure I get these things done, and I'm going to write a to-do list, and only then am I confident, right? No, it's
Mm.
dedicate, an hour to 2 hours to doing 2 or 3 things each
Mm.
day. That's it. So, the 2 or 3 things that I do each day are this: I commit to making sure that I don't miss my workouts. That is number one.
Mm.
Okay. Number two is making sure that I don't miss prepping to eat healthy and cooking
Mm.
healthy foods instead of ordering takeout. I do not order takeout. It's not something I've done, or like once in a while, and that's okay. And the third is to make sure that I read for 30 to 45 minutes. Oh, if I'm in the journaling too, so that makes it 4.
Mm.
But all that together would take probably less than, be about 2.5 hours or 3 hours of my entire day. And then that leaves me with, depending on what time you wake up, and hopefully it's not like 1 p.m., but it leaves you with the rest of the day to relax, to do whatever you want, go for a walk or whatever it is, but commit to 2 or 3 things, and you
Mm.
make sure that you do those things. And one of those things or two of those things should be benefiting your health or contributing to your health, because right now, especially, that's what we need to be prioritizing. Like
Yeah.
if you are concerned about the coronavirus and you are sitting there eating ice cream all day and ordering takeout,
There might be
like
some
you
people
are
eating ice cream watching this right now.
That's okay. I
Stop
eat ice cream too.
it.
But you know what I mean? Like if you're going to sit there and be concerned about, this virus,
Mhm.
and you're doing really nothing ultimately to take care of yourself, even if it just means cooking at home versus constantly ordering takeout, right? It like you're contradicting yourself. Like you're not helping yourself in any way. But when you're actually eating healthy and you know, like, hey, look, I'm dedicating some of this time to take care of myself because I value my body. My body is important to me. And I know that there is a virus going around, but I'm going to do the best of my ability to take care of my own health so that that's one less person that the world needs to worry about right now. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And so it
Good
you know
point. That's really good.
so yeah, so dedicate some time to your health. And then another thing would be to educate yourself,
Mhm.
whether it's reading or whether it's whatever. What is that one topic that you've wanted to learn for so long, or like that you wanted to get better at, or whatever it is? Read about it, pick up a book. Like for me personally, it's been about finance and building an investment portfolio.
Mhm.
That's something that I've wanted to work on this year, and that was my 2020 goal, was to start investing, whether it's through crypto and through stocks, and eventually through a property, which obviously right now is a really bad timing to do so. But either way, that's something that I've already started
Mhm.
doing. And obviously some of the books that I have been reading are all tied into that. And so, pick something that you're interested about and make that your central focus for 30 minutes a day, not all day, right? So
Mhm.
yeah.
Awesome. That's so good. So rich. So those are like your baselines or your foundational stuff. If you have that, then you can everything else is kind of a bonus, so to speak.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Four things. Those four things,
Mm.
I cross those off. I could do whatever else I want with my day. And often what happens is because you have gotten yourself into a pattern of actually progressing. And
Mm.
I like the word progression over productivity, because productivity is just being constantly busy with something in order to feel like you accomplished something at the end of the day,
Mhm.
which doesn't always necessarily give you the best, again, ROT, right? Return on
Mm.
time. So it just depends on what those few things that are very important that'll give you the best return, do those things, right? But what ultimately happens is you end up getting into a mindset of wanting to progress more, and so you don't want to waste the rest of the day. You actually end up wanting to educate yourself a little more. So I start watching more, videos and YouTube videos and stuff on investing, even though I've already dedicated that 30 minutes. It's just ultimately that's what happens. You're shifting your mind,
Mm.
and you end up getting into a really good space, that actually benefits you way more, and in fact leads you to feeling better at the end of the day, as opposed to feeling crappy because, oh, just another day of me sitting around and eating pizza and laying in my bed all day with Netflix and all of that, right? I mean, watch a movie or two, but not all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Speaking of ROT and your time, we're creeping up to almost an hour. Are you
Okay.
okay to go a little longer if you want to, or?
Sure, if people are willing to stick around, like, I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Because
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, it's getting really good. Awesome. I'd love for you to share your the recent books that you've been reading. If you can,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So one of the books that I actually listened to the audio a while ago, but now decided I wanted to actually read the book, was Think and Grow Rich by
Nice.
Napoleon Hill. And so this is a classic. And this, I would probably have to say, and it's funny because it literally says one of the most influential bestsellers of all time. It literally was one of the most influential books that I have ever read when it comes to personal wealth, and growing your wealth. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
so this was definitely, like, if there's one book that I recommend for people who are looking to build their wealth, and eventually they want to accumulate large amounts of money so they can live according to their standards and their means, this honestly has to be the book for it. Like it's incredible. Like again, second thing, if I had to force anyone to do is get this book. Like it's incredible. And I really say this from a good place because there's just so much good, rich content in here that can seriously change your life if you're just willing to pick it up and read a page at a time, you know? So this is probably the best one that I've read so
Before you
far.
move to the next one,
Yes,
if you were to
yes.
summarize like a one golden nugget from that book, like what would, top of mind, what would be something you're getting out of it from that book?
The one thing that it ultimately there's 7 principles in this book. Or I think there's actually a few more, not 7, there's probably a few more in here, but it's basically a summary of it is that it's a few principles that you can utilize. And some of the biggest things that you have to understand is a lot of people are in a poverty mindset because of their relationship with money and with the way that they feel about money, right? And so we've grown up with these different concepts about money. And so, you know, people stick into a poverty mindset because they're not willing to see that money does not tie to anything negative, right? That it can actually benefit you in so many ways. And there's a difference between being wealthy and being rich. You know, there really is a difference. And this really just, for me, it really just kind of helps you develop the mindset and the emotions that are tied to creating wealth that bring you happiness, but not so much in a materialistic way, but more so in a progressive way, you know, because ultimately, like material doesn't make us happy, right? We're not, I mean, a lot of people, obviously, yes, it does to an extent, but that's not going to leave us feeling content. And I think a lot of people who look at wealthy people or rich people, they assume that these people are so tied to their materials, and some people are, yes, but those people are not wealthy. Those people are just rich and they went to be rich, right? Whereas like there are other people who see money as opportunity as opposed to just materialistic things, you know. And I think that that's sort of the mindset that I can relate to, is that I see money as an opportunity that opens doors to so much more, right? So, you know, being to invest in other people or do other things. And so I think if you read this, it's definitely going to have a big impact on your life, like when it comes to finances. So that's one I've read. Second one I've read is Think Like a Startup. Now I bought this book. Yeah, so I bought this book. It's an Australian author. I bought this book thinking that it was more so about entrepreneurship, because obviously the title itself. But funny enough, and this is how the universe works, it was actually like 80% about finances. Literally, it ended up being about finances, like the whole thing, most of it. And so that kind of worked out really well because there was a lot of incredible information in here. So the author is I can't even say Sammartino.
Can you show the cover again?
Yeah, for sure.
Steve Sammartino. Get agile and unleash your inner entrepreneur. All right. Yeah. That's a new one for me.
So very good book. Really, really liked it. I got a lot out of it, but again, more so financial information as opposed to, there's a little bit of entrepreneurial stuff, but it's definitely more around finances, which was awesome because the information in there was just so powerful.
Is it like very practical or like high level thinking?
Very, very practical.
So like investment strategies or something like that?
Oh, for sure. So here's the thing. I'm not a finance person by any means. Like, I mean, I wasn't. Right now I'm starting to really build that up and understand a lot more. But you know, I was like everybody else, right? So really just like basic understanding of finances. You have a bank account, you have savings, you know, and like just very, very basic level. And so that was one of the reasons I wanted to, you know, to progress myself in this area, was because eventually I knew I wanted to accumulate, you know, my own personal wealth and whatever else. And so I started to pick up these books, you know, hoping that they're going to be a lot, like very easy to understand and read, and they were. So I was very lucky. And so yes, anybody can relate to this stuff, and very, very easy to understand, and super, super powerful stuff in there as well. So yeah. So one of the books that I also read a couple weeks ago, not related to finance, actually was the Five Love Languages.
Nice.
So
Get it
this
chatting.
one is a classic, yeah. So I've read this before, but I really felt like it was important to kind of remind myself, um, just really understanding people in my life, and how to sort of interact with them in the best way. And I think,
Hmm.
what's really, really cool is actually in the book, The Think and Grow Rich, it directly says that the relationships that you have with the people in your life will have a direct impact on your ability to create wealth.
Mm.
And so I found that was really cool because it ties in so well. The more you understand the people in your life, and understand yourself and your needs with those people, the more harmony there is, right?
Mhm.
And you get along better with those people, and you're able to build, longer lasting relationships, whether it's friendships or with your spouse or with, a partner, or, you know, siblings or whatever. You're able to understand their needs. And so this is really, really cool. For those people that don't know what the five love languages are, basically it just talks about how different people have a specific love language, and that's their way of showing and receiving love. And most of us have one or two that are dominant. And so some of them would be like words of affirmation,
Mm.
receiving gifts, nice gestures like acts of
Acts of
kindness,
service.
quality time, and then, yeah, and then physical touch. And so, when you understand what your needs are and what the people around you that you care about, what their needs are, you're really able to just kind of build more of a harmonious relationship with those people. So the book I'm currently
That's so
reading,
good. Yes,
the
Wealthy
book I'm,
Barber. That's great. I was gonna
yes,
mention that. Mm.
yes, the one
Awesome.
I'm
How do
reading
you
right
like
now. So
that?
not bad. So I'm halfway through the book. So I what I really like about this book, first off, the writing is pretty funny. At first, I was kind
Yeah.
of like a little bit switched off because I'm like, what's happening? I don't get this guy. He's just constantly making jokes. But he eventually, I realized that he really knows how to obviously connect with the reader,
Mm.
and it's a very easy read, like
Hmm.
super easy. Anybody can read it. And what's cool is that he's Canadian.
Hmm.
And so, he talks a lot about sort of building your, savings and sort of how to invest and all of that, in Canada. And so it relates to people because most of the other books we read are from outside of Canada. And you're like, well, I don't really need to know how, like the retirement funds
What's my
work in the US.
401k and all
Like,
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't need to know that. So he does really help you understand, just the basics of really just like saving up for your future, investing, and also, for your retirement fund, your RSPs and things like that. So
Mm.
really cool so far. And yeah, I'm excited to finish it off. But
Awesome.
that's what I've really been doing with my time. It's been pretty cool.
That is solid. That's really
Yeah.
great. So the next time, I can already think the next interview with you would probably be on money, mindset and money.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
It's gonna
By
be
then,
great.
I will definitely,
You'll be a
um,
finance guru by then.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I'll definitely have a way better understanding. I can already say that I do. So from the last few weeks, so I'm pretty blessed to
Awesome.
kind of taken this time, to be able to do that. So yeah.
Great. Jen wanted to ask you, what is your all-time favorite book?
I actually have it. It's at home. But I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out. I'm actually gonna bring it. So give me one
Okay.
second.
Or all-time favorite books, if there's more than one. All right, guys, if you have any other questions, please write them down and we'll
Okay, I
get
couldn't
to it.
find a lot of the other ones, but so this is my favorite book, Jen. It's called The Mastery of Love. Okay, it's by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Hmm.
So I'll show you that here. I've read this book. I've had this book for over 5 years, and I have probably read it once or twice every single year.
Wow.
Um, so, and what's really cool, so it's a practical guide to the art of relationships. And again, when we say relationships, it's more so just anybody really in your life, not necessarily just like a boyfriend, spouse, or whatever.
Mm.
But it is really, really an incredible book. It's just so amazing because it doesn't matter what you're going through in your life. Every time you pick this book up again and you're in a different phase, it feels like you're reading it from a totally different perspective.
Oh, neat.
Um, so it's so cool because you're constantly seeing it through a different lens, and it's always somehow giving you the insight that you need in that stage of your life.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I just fell in love with this book, and it's just so incredible how they talk about really just the true essence of love and what it really is supposed to be, as opposed to kind of what society thinks love should be, right? And it's
Mm.
always, again, society always you know assumes that love has to be an expectation, right? So what you give me
Mm.
ultimately will then have me love you a little bit more, right? So
Mm.
the more you give me, the more I love you, right? Whereas this talks about, has nothing to do with that, right? And that love itself is to be separated and not to really be demeaned. So yeah, incredible book.
Ooh, that's
It's so
very
powerful.
intriguing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So you
Okay.
can borrow it, Jen. I have it at my house.
Awesome. And she says she misses you too.
Aw, so sweet.
Awesome. That's great. So good. I'm gonna put those books down in the description so everyone can access that. Um, how much? I have a few more questions if you're still open
No,
to
that's
chat
fine.
more.
Yeah, go
Okay.
for it. Go for it.
Um, I guess while we're on the topic of books and I guess reflecting and like the writing, um, have you ever journaled like through just typing things out? Because I've seen like people love just pen on paper,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like I don't know why, but is there like a science behind that as opposed to just like typing it out on a Word document or note
Um,
taking app?
Here's the deal. I think it really does depend on what you're more comfortable with. Like, if you're going to journal, if you're not going to journal because you don't want to write on like using pen and paper and you'd rather use typing it out, then do it.
Mm,
Do it until eventually you can kind of transfer. But yes, it has been scientifically proven that there's just something about using the pen and sort of writing on the paper.
mm,
There's something about that that's a lot more powerful in sort of the transfer between thought, external, onto a piece of paper. So I don't know exactly like what the science is, but I have read quite a bit that it's definitely a lot more powerful
mm.
to do that than to kind of I don't know if it's like something like that's like rooted in mankind, like from back in the day, where
Yeah.
maybe we're just so used to kind of expression was like our expression form was through writing. So I don't know,
Okay.
but personally, I do believe that I feel a lot better when I actually write, um, like
Hmm.
actively write using a pen to paper. But I have also typed out.
Right.
I have also, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, if I wasn't in the mood, I've also gone just opened up a Word doc and created a little folder and just typed out whatever I felt for the day.
Mm.
As long as you're finding a as long as you're finding sort of a method to express yourself and to release a lot of your thoughts and emotions, then I don't see anything wrong with it.
Right. Oh, interesting. I wondered maybe because of the speed that you're writing, you're
Hmm.
probably more reflective or more intentional.
That's Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. That's a cool observation. Maybe I'm actually going to probably Google this after this because now I'm curious myself.
Yeah. And you were saying, yeah, I like how you're saying like just start, just like write anything down. I wrote some notes down on like motivation to start. Um, and I guess accountability, because I guess someone like you, you're very self-disciplined. You can do things
Not always, but I
well,
try.
okay, for people like myself, who I guess and others out there, who I guess motivated through group work or the accountability.
Hmm.
Um, do you have any tips on on motivating yourself to start or continuing like a habit? I know we're talking about that for 2020 hustle.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, just like talking in general about like accountability and is it really helpful to do it in a group?
Hmm. Is this like towards like when it comes to journaling or just
Start a new
anything?
habit, like for example, actually,
Any new habit.
so I just recently started these daily push-ups, and
Cool.
I mean, we're talking about like, I guess the negative sides of social media, but for me this was a good thing because I was inspired by my cousin.
Hmm.
He's
Hmm.
doing Journey to 1,000, and I'm like, okay,
Oh,
I
cool.
and he's doing 50 push-ups a day, and then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should do that because I used to love doing it and it's been a while.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I started that, but it's because of that social aspect, so I post it on Instagram,
Hmm.
and so now I'm accountable to like the world. So it
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah. And you're productively using social media. And that's
Yeah.
really cool, as opposed to, like I said, just mindlessly scrolling, right? There's a difference there. That's cool. That's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Okay. So is there sort of a tip on getting people motivated to start a new habit that can sort
Yeah,
of better
in general,
themselves?
yeah, and if accountability is a helpful thing, or maybe just doing it by yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is whatever it is you want to do, like whether it's, especially during these times, it's going to be a little more challenging to set a goal to stay fit, right? Because you can't really leave. I mean, you can go for walks and stuff and things like that. Or if as long as obviously people are practicing safe social distancing, you can find, a little area near to your house to be able to do a little workout, which is what I've sort of been doing, just finding like a little field.
Mm.
But I think it is a lot harder. But one thing that I have to say is that nothing is going to have a better impact on you to start something than finding someone else who's already doing it
Mm.
and connecting with them. And so that's something that you've already done yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw that, is it your cousin or your friend,
Yeah, my
or
cousin.
your cousin is already doing daily push-ups, right? So he's already doing it. Now you kind of felt, whoa, okay, well, if he's doing it, I'm going to do it too. And so you kind of, started that trend, or continued that trend, and, you're doing your push-ups, right? And so I think, if it's fitness, if it's finance, whatever it is, don't hesitate to reach out to somebody that who might specialize in that thing, right?
Mm.
So I have friends that are around me right now, which I'm very fortunate, who are very active. And so I know that these people are going to help me get started in somewhere, or they're going to help me, not started, but be held accountable, because these are the people I'm choosing to include into my day-to-day life, right? So, we'll text each other, hey, did you work out? Not yet. Okay, well, when are you going to start? Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing? Okay, like, what's your routine or whatever?
that's
And
awesome.
so, yeah, so I think one of the best ways to start something new, or when it comes to, for example, even this whole social media, for me to disconnect from social media, I was still even a little bit hesitant, right? It wasn't so much about the validation, but I knew I wanted to manage my time better and to be a little bit more productive when it came to educating myself.
Mm.
And so I got a little bit hesitant, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to be MIA on social media. I'm going to do it, but I still have a little bit of this weird feeling. But time management is important for me. Who do I
Mm-hmm.
know that's kind of already done this? And my cousin, actually, funny enough,
Mm.
happened to have already made that adjustment, and he had deleted his social media, and he is reading constantly. And we
Awesome.
share books now, so he'll drop off books and then I'll drop off books for him, and he doesn't live too far, so, like, so it's super cool, because we're able to kind of, like, I know he's doing it and he's okay, and he's been okay, and I've seen the progression, I've seen the success, because he's learned so much by just dedicating his time to reading, that he's already 10 steps ahead of so many people in his field,
Mm-hmm.
which is super cool. um, And so, like, following through with him, like just connecting with him has helped me kind of stay accountable to reading, and to, and it's okay to kind of reintroduce social media as long as it's not like constantly, like I said,
It's
right,
not
all
getting in the
day.
way, right?
It's not getting in the
Yeah.
way from what I want to do, right?
Mm.
So find the person, connect with that person, and just reach out to them and be like, hey, like, i heard I heard you're really good at, like, like fitness, or like, I heard that you're really good at finance or whatever. Like, if you're going to use social media for anything, use it to find somebody that you know in your friends list who's
Mm.
actually doing what you aspire to do,
That
because
is great.
ultimately, yeah, they will drive you to either to do it, and you're going to feel kind of crappy if you don't live up to it, because now you've already reached out to that person
Yeah.
and they're already successful at what they're doing, of that
Mm.
habit they've created. So, you are now held accountable. So, yeah, I think that's the first step. Just reach out, ask a couple questions. Hey, you know, what's it like, kind of getting up every day at 6 a.m.? Is that something you enjoy doing, or
Hmm.
is it something, if that's one of your goals, right? I don't know. But reach out to the person and ask them. It won't
Yeah.
hurt, right?
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
then eventually they'll inspire you, just like your cousin inspired you, and just like my cousin kind of helped me sort of confirm that it's okay to step away for a little bit, off the limelight, and just kind of focus on other stuff. So, yeah.
Mm. Shout out to all those cousins inspiring us out there. Awesome. One last thing, I want to touch on hustle culture. That's something I've been meaning to talk to you about. I mean, we talk about like productivity, and it's like, okay, we got to get it done. What's your take on that? Like, I guess how do you define hustle culture? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a little too much? I'm curious.
I think it depends on the person.
Hmm.
And I think, what do you mean by hustle means something different for everybody.
Hmm.
And this is where I'll touch on the fact that there's a difference between progressing and being productive, and being straight up just busy because you want to be a hustler. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So what I think, and this is something that I've, through a lot of reading and personal experience of the people I've met, some of the most successful people in the world have not only learned to manage their time, but they've learned to put majority of their focus on the things that bring them the greatest return. And so that doesn't mean spending their time sort of dividing it up and doing stuff all day every day and just being super busy. No, they pick out the top two or three things that are the most important things. So
Mm.
those are going to be like your big rocks, and they're, tackling those things and making sure that they achieve those things, because they're aware that those big rocks are going to bring them the greatest return for their time.
Mm.
So they then dedicate to doing that, and that doesn't necessarily take 12 to 15 hours a day, no sleep, no eating, just live off coffee. And so obviously hustle culture has sort of this negative, like, it does have a little bit of a negative connotation to it
Yeah.
now, because people have this idea that, like, you're literally doing nothing except for just straight hustling to get to your goal, right?
Yeah.
Um, that's that's not healthy, because that'll eventually burn you out, right?
Mm.
And so, a lot of businesses and a lot of entrepreneurs, or a lot of people who've done startups, tend to fail because they just can't maintain anymore,
Mm.
right? They lead to burnout, they lead to the inconsistency, they just can't go on at that rate any longer. And so, I don't think that hustle culture is great if it means that you're going to sacrifice your health and your well-being, your sleep, the other things that are important to you. I
Mm.
believe in creating happiness, right? And I think happiness is something that needs to be valued way more than just hitting some sort of a goal, because ultimately that's probably why we do any of this stuff in the first place, right?
Mm.
Is to feel content, to feel happy. So if you can find a way to get to that happiness consistently, then I don't think you need to burn yourself out, or to create that. But yes, I do believe you need to be, productive. But by productive, like I say, those few very, very important things that
Hmm.
are going to give you the greatest return, do those things
I love that.
first. And then if you have a little bit of like that time for after, for whatever else, the little things, then do those things, but don't, not at the expense of your health. No way.
I love, now I'm starting to understand how you're kind of researching into finance, because it's ROT is very finance related. So well, you're investing,
yeah,
you're trying to get the best return out of your time, your resources, whatever. I love it. So yeah, if I was to wrap this all up, so I guess the ultimate tip for all of this is like spend time journaling, and be aware of, or take stock of what really matters to you. Be intentional of that instead of being busy or productive, and find out those 3 or 4 like foundational things that really matter to you, and that's going to define what's meaningful and will give you the best ROT. And so ultimately to just be happy and live a fulfilling life.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. Yeah, and stay active and turn off the news if you're watching it all day. Because the same thing you heard an hour ago is most likely, I mean, there might be some updates, but you're starting to get the gist of what they're going to constantly tell you.
Yeah.
Like, the difference between awareness and, you know, staying up to date and just being flat out addicted to the television. You know, so yeah, draw the line.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Was there anything else you wanted to share? Lasting thoughts?
No, I think that's pretty good. You know, I do know that this isn't an easy time for everybody. I'm fully aware of it. You know, I may seem like it, you know, I've got it all together, but of course I have my moments. You know, this has affected everyone, and including myself, and even mentally. You know, sometimes it's very, very hard, and I think that, you know, people just need to understand that it's not forever. You know, things will get better. You know, we have to stay optimistic, and we have to do the best we can to kind of, you know, just spread a lot of positivity and just kind of be there for one another. And I think, you know, help somebody out if you can, if they're trying to change a habit, you know, like go to the extent of like, hey, like, I'm really good at this. Like, how can I help anybody? I'm happy to kind of be your accountability partner. Like, post that on social media, you know? But I think, like, you know, it's not an easy time. And I think that, you know, do your best to kind of stay positive and, you know, keep your head up, and things will get better. And I think, you know, if you can learn to kind of take these tips and strategies and utilize them now, I think that you're going to come out as a much better person, and a stronger person, you know, more resilient. So yeah, that's all. Sending much love to everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your contribution. I know a lot of people I got a lot out of it, so thank you so much. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. If people want to find out more about you, should they go visit your site, Bloomshell? And are you taking new clients at the moment?
So at the moment, I do already have about 3 active clients that I'm working with right now. I'm not going to be taking on too many more, just because I am, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, that I am actually going to be working on a new project. That's something I've been wanting to do for a little while, just to kind of see how that goes. So at the moment, you know, obviously if it's somebody that I really feel like at this point, like, I can truly contribute to, then yes, absolutely. But at the moment, yeah, they can still reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. You know, definitely visit my site. And, you know, I will still be active on social media. So you can, you know, here and there, but you can definitely, you know, I do always respond to my DMs. So, you know, if you have questions and things like that, like I'm very active on that, because I do still want to stay in touch with people. So, you know, you can visit my Instagram page and yeah.
Awesome. Right on. I'm just going to put up some of your information on the screen, and we will wrap up. Thank you so much.
No worries.
All right, guys. If you want to get a hold of Hevi, you can check her website out, bloomshell.com, or reach out to her at Hevi Serdar on Instagram. She'll be happy to reach out to you. As always, I hope you had an amazing time. Stay safe out there, and if you guys want to bring in any new guests or let us know any feedback, just just let us know in the comments below. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. All right, guys, have a good night. Take care.